Great. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to Mordechai and Raya for broadcasting this year. We're up to Perek Sheni, Chapter 2, Mishna Yud, Mishna 10. Let's dive right into the Mishnah. Amar Lahem. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to them, who is them? The 5 students that he would regularly compliment them and tell them their talents and greatnesses. Go out and see. In other words, make an effort. You have to. It's not something which you can take for granted, but make an effort to go out there and to make it happen. Ezohi derech tova. What is the good path? Sheyidbak baha adam, that a person should cleave onto, should adapt into their own lives. So let's start from the beginning. Rabbi Eliezer, who was the son of Hyrcanus. Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Ayin tova, a good eye. Rabbi Yoshua Omer. Rabbi Yoshua says, Chaver tov. A good friend is a good midah to cleave to. Rabbi Yossi Omer. Rabbi Yossi says, Shachen tov, a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says, Haro'eh et hanolad, someone who sees the future, sees what will be the outcome of his actions. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Rabbi Elazar says, Lev tov, a good heart. Amar lahem. So he, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, said to them, Ro'eh ani et divrei Elazar ben Arach mit divreichem. I connect more, I see more, I admire what Rabbi Elazar ben Arach says more than all of your opinions. Shebichlal devarav divrechem, for included in his words you have everything. In other words, if you have a good heart, then you have everything included in that too. Let's stop over here because this is the first part of the Mishnah, and we'll try to explain a little bit, and then we can move on to the next part of the Mishnah. We have to see the good midah. What can we learn from each one of the midot, of the exceptional ways of life of the 5 great tzaddikim, students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? So Rabbi Eliezer says, Ayin tova. In other words, a bad eye means, we're going to see that in the next part of the Mishnah, where a person is stingy, a person is jealous with what another person has. We have to have a good eye. A good eye is someone who is happy with what other people have, is proud of the success of their colleague, of their friend. That's called having a good eye. The same thing can be continued to the concept of ayin hara. Ayin hara is a bad eye. What does a bad eye mean usually? It's a Kabbalistic concept where someone looks at someone else with a bad eye. In other words, they're giving them almost a curse, which is the opposite of a blessing, just by looking at them with a bad eye. So in other words, when we have ayin tova, a good eye, then that you are giving the other person the benefit of the doubt. You are giving the other person good energy. Looking at a person with a good eye is not only staring around and looking around at the world around you, but it's giving him energy. The eye doesn't only take in, apparently the eyeball works in a way that I have to ask my father, he's the eye doctor, but apparently it works in a mirror way that what you see mirrors off, and then you also give out some kind of energy. According to Chassidut, it's the same concept. That when you look at someone, especially a stare, but it's still this concept of looking at, then you're giving good energy to the person. You're giving them, you're judging them in a good way, and you're giving them only good. Rabbi Yoshua, okay, Rabbi Yoshua, I'm not sure exactly how, getting back to Rabbi Eliezer, how that is connected to the compliment that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai told him. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "You are a bor sud, you are a almost like a cemented pit that does not lose even one drop." So perhaps if a person has, for some of these things we do see a connection, but some of them not. So perhaps, I'm just guessing, that if someone has the approach of an ayin tovah, of a good eye, and allowing other people to succeed, then that can bring a person to ayin tovah, to have a good eye and look at other people and bring good energy to other people. So it's not just that he keeps in for himself, but he also is able to share with others. Let's move on. The next one is a little bit easier to connect. Rabbi Yoshua, he was the one that was born, his mother gave birth to him in the yeshiva. And what did he say? Chaver tov. Chaver tov means someone that's a truly good friend. Now, a good friend is there for you both in good times, but also in challenging times. And that's really an opportunity for you to see who is really a friend, who really cares for you, who is really there for you, not only in good times, but also and it's a blessing. It's a true blessing. Like we said in the first parak, Mishna above, we said, "Uknei lecha chaver," you should acquire for yourself a friend. To have a good friend, a real friend, a true friend, is something which is very precious. And this is perhaps connected with what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said about him, Ashra Yoladato, which we've been learning over the past few days, that his mother gave birth to him in the yeshiva, and so he had good friendship. Who was his friendship? Who were his friends? His friends were the Torah scholars. Anytime, even from before he was born, he already was. He had good friends. A Talmud Chacham, a Torah scholar, is also called someone that has good friends. It's called the David HaMelech says in the Tehillim, Chaver ani l'chol asher yirayucha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I am a friend to anyone who fears you. Well, it's David HaMelech, which this is a source for the fact that a Talmud Chacham can be called a Chaver, can be called a friend, a good friend. Then the next one is Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi was the Chassid. He said Shachen Tov, a good neighbor. Wow. I cannot tell you enough how powerful is having a good neighbor. A good neighbor can be there for you by day and by night, around the clock. Even a good friend, sometimes, he has to have his own life. He has a family. He doesn't always live in the same town, in the same city, in the same country. But a good neighbor doesn't just, technically speaking, live next door. They're also available for you at all hours of the day. Then Rabbi Shimon says, "Haro'eh et hanolad," someone who sees what is going to be sort of born afterwards. So, what was the compliment that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to Rabbi Shimon? He said, "You fear the sin." We talked yesterday about the idea a couple of times over the past couple of days about fearing sin is not fearing the punishment. Fearing sin is fearing the actual disconnection from Hashem. So when we talk about haro'eh et hanolad, how can someone bring themselves to not to do a sin because they fear the sin itself? Because they don't only look at this scenario right now. What happened when the snake would try to incite Eve, to eat from the tree of knowledge? He said, "Look, it's a good fruit, kitovu. And it is a lust for the eyes. So it tried to say that, wow, this is something which is it's good. So the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, tries to paint a picture that it's really a good scenario. Only if you have laser vision and you can see deep down, or in the context of the Mishna that we just learned, someone that sees what's going to be afterwards and sees that we don't only look at what's here and now and look how the sin is pleasurable for this moment. But a person looks further behind, even several steps beyond, and realizes that the sin is a terrible thing and is able to control themselves and not to get caught into the trap of the Yetzer Hara, of the evil inclination. Then that is connected to the concept of fearing the sin itself. That is a deeper understanding of the severity of, God forbid, violating the mitzvah. And finally, Rabbi Elazar says, Lev Tov. He says a good heart. A good heart means that a heart is really the engine for all of the other parts of the person's body. That is the source for where everything comes from. And so even though every limb of the person's body has its own mission, nevertheless, the ability to awaken them, they're all connected to the heart. The heart, Bezrat Hashem, pumps the energy throughout the entire body. Therefore, Rabbi Elazar says, Lev Tov, a good heart. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, I see that whatever Rabbi Elazar ben Arach said, it's greater because it includes within itself everything else. Once a person has a good heart, then everything else fits in. The ayin tova, the good eye. The chaver tov, a good friend. The shachen tov, a good neighbor. The person sees, when your heart is in the right place, you're able to make the right decisions, and you see not only what you see at face value, but you see several steps ahead. And so, Lev Tov is definitely all-inclusive, and it's something that we should definitely develop to have simply a good heart, a kind heart, and an understanding heart to be able to fulfill Hashem's will. Thank you so much for joining us. Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow morning we have Kabbalah Cafe at 9:30, and a big announcement. Shabbat morning, we're going to have a special Kiddush, and because it's the Shabbat before Yud Bet Tammuz, the Chag HaGeula, the holiday of redemption of the Frierdiker Rebbe, we have a special guest speaker, Rabbi Binyaminson, who is visiting now from New York. He is the executive director of Tzivot Hashem, the world's largest Jewish children's organization. He is going to be bringing with us during the Kiddush after davening this Shabbos. We look forward to seeing all of you right here at Chabad of Rechavia. All the best.